Alright, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakotash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of great mercy, not surely they will well. Peace and blessings unto the Akim, surely four corners of the soul. Push this word in all sincerity and with all diligence is about Matana from one of the great Millstone camps here in Trinidad. This video gonna be showing the topic of wives, where we have IUIC teaching that you could only have one wife, which is contrary to the scriptures, the understanding of the scriptures. So basically that is their doctrine, because nowhere in the scriptures the Most High said that having two or more wives is a sin. Nowhere have he said it, nowhere have he condemned any man for having it, nowhere have he instructed any man to have only one wife. And there's multiple examples, multiple occasions where you see men having a lot of wives, and it wasn't a sin unto them. The Most High never charged them guilty of any breaking any law. This is 2 Samuel 12 and verse 7. It says, "And Nathan said to David, thou art the man." Now this is the account of David, putting Uriah the Hittite to death because he slept with his wife and impregnated her, and he got rid of Uriah so that he wouldn't be found out. And he said the prophet Nathan came to David and broke the news to him that he know and he gonna receive judgment from the Lord for it. Now this is what the Lord said unto David. It says, "And Nathan said to David, thou art the man. Thus saith Yahweh, power of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul, and I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things." Now, we emphasizing here is the fact that the Lord said he gave him his master's house and his master's wives. When Saul died, his wife, well, the scripture didn't say wife, but his wives are free to marry who they please. Now King David would have had control over that, because he was the king then. So you see here firstly that King Saul had more than one wife. Now the Lord said, I gave thee thy master's wives, and David already had his own. And then the Lord said, and if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things, meaning I would have given more. Now if it were a sin, for you to have more than one wife, the Lord would have never said that. The Lord would have said, "Hire a wife," and you're looking for an next one, but the Lord didn't say that. The issue here was adultery. Killing a man, adultery and murder, killing a man, to leave with his wife. You understand? So these men leave out crucial parts of the scriptures, crucial, precepts, in order to fulfill their wickedness when it comes to breaking down the scriptures, because IUIC don't teach what the scriptures teach. The IUIC teach what they want to teach. They have this world-friendly doctrine. That is why they encourage their men to marry according to Esau law. That is because they know that these women want that. To pull in women in order to pull in women, you teach that a man should only have one wife and marry according to Esau law, legal marriage. Which, if that hadn't been the case, they would have had less women following them. Because as soon as you teach more, you teach a man can have more than one wife. These women not into that. So we know it's just to please them, and that one is about pleasing the people, making sure he could gain as much followers as possible because it's about the money anyhow. He could try to deny it as much as you want, but hey, we know that. Scripture say the Lord is at the turn of the thoughts. It's not hard to see that is what his whole purpose, and goal is about. The money. Anyhow, is 1 Kings 11 and verse 3 says, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Speaking about King Solomon. And then they would talk about, look at King Solomon. When I talk about the sin of King Solomon, is because he had more than one wife. No. The sin of King Solomon was his wives, him building temples unto the gods of his wives, and him going and worshipping them. That was his sin about. The sin wasn't having more than one, or having 1,000 or 700 and 300 concubines, but rather the sin was him worshipping the gods of these women from strange nations. Verse 4 it says, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua his power, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abominations of the Ammonites, and Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. So his sin was in the fact that he had more than one, but but because he built temples and he went after and he did wickedness in the sight of the Lord, he started worshipping these gods. Scriptures say, if a man have two wives, one beloved and one hated, Deuteronomy 21 and verse 15, it says, if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then shall it be that when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he had, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he had. For he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of the firstborn is his. Now, the Lord gave you a law concerning, or in the scenario of if you have two wives. If you have two wives, one beloved and one hated, and the son of the hated came first. Not hated as in a hate you, but you prefer the other above this one. Like in the case of Rachel and Leah, Jacob preferred Rachel to Leah because Rachel was more beautiful. So if Leah, if this firstborn son came from Leah, you're not supposed to give the firstborn blessing unto a son of Rachel just because he loved her more. No, that is a scenario that the Most High is breaking down here. But as again, if it were not permitted, why would the Lord have given a law on how to deal with this scenario? Furthermore, Numbers 12 and 1. It says that Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. This was his second wife. Why didn't they complain about this being his second wife, but because of the nation she came from? Because he was permitted to have more than one woman. Isaiah 26, Isaiah 26, Isaiah 60, Isaiah 60 and verse 22, it says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. How shall I read it in a, let's see, NLT. It says NLT, the smaller family will become 1,000 people, and the tiniest group will become a mighty nation. At the right time, the Lord will make it happen. It says, the least of you will become 1,000, and the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord, and in its time I will do this swiftly. In the ESV, it says, the least one shall become a clan, and the smallest one a mighty nation. I am the Lord, in its time I will hasten it. Now, for one become 1,000, in a short span, it can never be one man to one woman. Think about it. You could, in a year, you can you can impregnate over 1,000 women. Let's think about it. Let me say, all right, one a day. One a day. One a day. We say 300 for the year. Could make 300. You could bring forth 300 seed for the year. Can a woman do the same? No. But a man can do it. I might say a little one. A small one can become a clan. In 10, 15, 20 years time, you know how much children a man can make? And the scripture in Genesis, the first instruction was what? Be fruitful and multiply. You being fruitful and multiply, you could never say that it's taken one man to one woman. So basically a child every year and a half. It's madness. How long are you going to take you to... let's be real. How much children this one woman going to push out for you? Think about it. How many children this one woman can conceive for you? For you to become 1,000, for you to become a clan. You see, you guys just teaching things, but you're teaching things that don't make sense, and they're making it look foolish, but you're teaching it anyway, just so you could get the vote of the majority, the like and the honor and the praise of the majority. But you don't want the praise of the Most High. Now, Yahushua spoke about that. Them that seek the honor of men and not of the Most High. IUIC is that group. Sakari is that group. ISUPK is that group. Teaching things that, the world would accept. But it's contrary to the Most High. There's favorite one. Isaiah 4:1, it says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. And I have men that saying this is going to be the kingdom. What reproach will these women have in the kingdom? What reproach? Why they going and say we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel in the kingdom? This is before this is going to happen on this side. When shame cover them. In the time of Jacob, surely the scripture say a man shall become as an hiding place. To who? To these women and them. A covert from the wind. A shield, a rock. Water in dry places. For whom? Again, the woman. You're not going to have any reproach in the kingdom. They're coming to say, we eat our own bread and wear our own apparel and let us be called. No. that is on this side. Leviticus 26. Is it 10 is that 10 or 26? It's 26. Yeah. So that when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall break your bread, and one of them, and they shall deliver you the bread that came by weight, and you shall eat and not be satisfied. 10 women, why? 10 women, because men gonna be few. You say you're gonna make a man more precious than the fine gold of Ophir. So men gonna be few. These women gonna cleave to men of the Lord. Cleave unto them. They're gonna cleave, they're gonna run down. It's like how they run down these celebrities. They wanna take pictures, meet and greet. They're dying to have a date with a celebrity. That is how it's gonna be in time of Jacob's trouble. So the Lord gonna restore things as to how it was. Bring back that balance, bring back that respect and fear and reverence that these women had towards men, especially Israelite men at one point in time, upon the face of the earth. So you're going to see who true and who isn't true. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Yahukakodash, the balance unto the apostles and the elders of the mess, so that surely be well. Peace and blessings until next time, we say Shalom.